What's up, guys? It's Ricky here. My browser was just giving me a problem with connecting the microphone. And so it was having trouble shooting issues. So you connect the microphone, it doesn't see one or the other. Because normally when I do the live stream, I have the connection of the microphone and the connection of the um, the camera. So it would be picking one, not both of them. So it just kept giving me issues. I had to switch it off. What? All that. Just thing. So I ended up just recreating the stream, and that's how it actually ended up seeing it. All right. I hope you can hear me well. I hope you can hear me well over here. All right. So last week we did a live Q&A, and I did mention that we might finish off the questions that were asked last, that we didn't have enough time to actually go to because we had passed 1 hour 30 minutes mark, and we didn't want to keep people here forever. So we had to kind of like stop a little bit early. So if you remember those questions that were there, you can remind us. But also at the same time, if you're watching this video, there will be in the pinned comment a comment that actually shows you the subjects that we spoke about. If you are in the live session, it helps because you are able to actually create the direction of the conversation, because it is the questions that maybe you had during the week, Bible verse you were reading that you were not clear on and stuff, that actually creates this conversation. And so just want to show you what I mean when I say the subjects we talk about, you will see them in thing. So this is last week's live stream. Let's see, this is the one. So this is last week's live stream, and you can see the title gets a little bit adjusted to some of the conversations we've had. We spoke about sangomas, the angels that are being claimed to be with the sangoma, and deliverance. We spoke about baptism and its necessity. But then we did tag along these other subjects. So in the comment section, down at the bottom, the first comment will give you the timestamps for all these other subjects that we talked about. And so that's what I mean. So you are watching this later on, do check that pinned comment. It'll tell you what other subjects we had. And so if you were there on last week's live stream and towards the ending you had a question that we didn't get to, you can send that through. You can send that through, so we may start there. Let me see. I remember towards 1 hour something we did have we did have a few questions that we did not get to last week. All right. Which ones was it? What's your take on the way people get delivered today? Okay, we did answer that one. And okay, sorry, but you must. Okay, we did speak about that one. Other kind. Okay. Let me fast forward a little bit. see if I can see the other ones. There was a question that I didn't get to. Towards the live streams ending yesterday, please address the govern us. Okay. Okay, I'm trying to see if I can find it. Thank you for the answer, people. Yes, we did speak about that. I said I was going to actually make an extra episode on that. It's very annoying. So, yeah, we're going to make an independent episode on that one. Churches prophesy. There are scriptures that speak about. Okay, we did speak about this one as well, along the lines of, you will see them in one church, if you remember that. we'll get people fired. Yeah, we spoke about that one. That Pumla had actually spoken about. Yeah, it's a very scary thing that gentleman is doing. People are frustrated out there. So, okay, it can end up in danger zones. What is your take on G20? I said that one. I was going to research that one further. Let's gather at least. Let me know. Thank you, Dankos. Hi. Was the question a little bit earlier than that? I can't remember. I cannot remember. And so, yeah, there was a few questions. I do remember that there was about 2 questions that I thought would take too much time if we try to answer them. Jesus, I gotta lower this light a little bit. It is a little bit beyond. All right. So yeah, I think we can do different other ones unless you can remember which questions we asked. I do remember that there was 2. I didn't note them. I'm just not remembering. It says leadership. How are you doing? Wonderful having you, my leader. Greetings. Deborah. Evening, leadership. Evening. Manku, how are you? Roxy, good evening, everyone. As Paula changed her Jesus Saves profile. Good evening, Bazalwani. Leadership, is it okay for a Christian to use? Oh, yeah, I think I remember the question. I think I remember one of the questions. I'm going to come to Menjo's video comment right now. The comment that was asked first that I didn't get enough time was on the subject of being a child in a household that's not Christian. You remember that question? I missed that towards the ending of the live stream. I just can't remember when it was asked, but I did see it a little bit late. And so there was a person that asked that. And I think it's something that really did concern that particular individual, because they didn't just ask that on the live stream, they did ask that in a separate video. And so that was one question I said we will definitely try to answer. I had completely forgotten it, but I remembered it by seeing Menjo's profile just reminded me of that question. And so just reminded me of that question. I'm coming to that question just now. And so this person had asked, Ricky, what is your thought on the subject matter of having parents that are not Christians and a child who lives under a household that follows that. That's a very tricky one. No lies. That is a very tricky one. If they, a lot of parents actually won't stop a child from going to church. They won't stop it because they know that it will build that child morally, so forth. And so they wouldn't stop you. The only pressure the child would have is being a part of all this other ritual stuff and all. The channel's WhatsApp number, please. Um, you know what? I was actually supposed to actually remind and post back um, messages to everybody on the thingy. Do remind me to do that. Oh Jesus, I don't have it here. Let me just pick up that number and write it. Ministry 2024. Okay. Yeah. All right. Got it. Let me write it down. It's plus 27 7 2 3 9 6 6 5 5 8. All right. So that's the number there. I don't know. Is that all the numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, yeah. So that's the WhatsApp number. You can screenshot and then save it, or just type it in the comment and then copy that and then go and save it. All right. So on this subject matter of the child being in a household which is thingy, it might be a lot more difficult being in such a situation because they will force that child. Now, I've heard pastors advise as long as they allow the child to actually practice their faith, when there's all these other things which they are forced to, um, they don't think the child should be rebellious towards the parents on that subject because it's not what they believe, and the child is not at a point of authority, you know, until they come to a point of maturity when they can actually make a decision that actually reflects towards the parents, or which the parents can actually see the child has an independent decision now when they go towards like university and so forth. Then they can start to distance themselves. But when they are still young, it may only make it difficult. I've heard pastors advise things along those lines and stuff like that. Now, I wouldn't say my advice on that subject would be far from that. You know, it is difficult, to be honest with you. I just can't imagine thingy, but being it clear that the child doesn't believe in that, okay, and the child is themselves studying themselves on what the foundation is as a Christian and stuff like that, and only the extreme ones, like where those ones where they make you drink blood, whatnot, all those type of ritual stuff. That's where I would say no. But I believe that there are certain areas, like for instance, I remember I met a child, a young lady. She, because she was gifted in dreams, the parents then took her to a inyanga, and then they did all kinds of rituals that kind of complicated that child's thing, that child's life. Uh, but they didn't take her to any rituals that actually led her to being initiated and stuff. But they just took her to other rituals, uh, like killing an animal for her. What they will talk, because remember, they'll talk, they'll call the makazi of the house or the auntie of the house to come and do these rituals. So they did all of that. And when she was older, she did mention, you know what, I don't think they should have actually even done any of those things. She understood that clearly, and so, yeah, it is a very difficult one to advise. Now, if you're just dismissive, without thinking about the well-being of the child, you'll just be saying, yeah, no, the child should just reject. Yeah, it might be much more difficult than that for that child. You might actually make it difficult for that child. But if the parents, let's say for instance, the mother and the father are not married, and it's one side of the family that's forcing that on the child, you know, I would rather the child communicate that to the other parent, to find a little bit of a leaning towards thinking. But completely resisting might be much more difficult than you could even be. It's easier to advise someone to do that without considering the well-being of that child, and so, yeah, it's just a hope matter that they have a way of being able to navigate that situation within parents, or within the parent, one of the parents who is able to lean on their side. For example, you have the situation of Somizi and his baby mama, Palesa. You know at one point the mom and the dad were on one side, but then the mother gets saved. And when the mother gets saved, the mother is able to take the side of the daughter, so that she doesn't have to do any of these rituals. But then once the child is growing, she's not at a point where she's independent. She's still staying under their house, under their roof. But she has a point where they respect her decision to follow her faith. And if you listen to the story of thing, I was actually supposed to do an interview with her. It's just that she did end up actually getting a little bit sick and stuff. And so she rejected it from her mom, she rejected it from her dad. So if you did watch that interview, you would have had me commending her, because that was a much difficult situation, because she was under their household, under their roof. She wasn't independent, and she was still rejecting. But that's not everyone that's gonna be at that particular position. And so, if she can get her pastor's advice on that, and personally, I think resisting, it's just not going to be an easy one. And so, but yeah, y'all tell me what you think on that one, because you have to think about the well-being of that child. I've heard a situation where the mother was Christian, the father was a traditionalist, and the mother said, I don't want my child to go through that. And so the child has that, and the child themselves is a person of faith. you know I think just that sometimes we just tend to have people that advise, like, the child must just do this. You have to think about the well-being of that child. And so, yeah, I just remembered that because of that question thingy. But y'all tell me what you think on that. But you have to think of the child's faith. Is the child If the child is clear on their faith, right? And remember, the Bible does tell us that, that state of obedience under the parents and stuff like that. And so, until the child is matured enough to take a decision for themselves, that the parents cannot to say, you know what, I don't believe in these things, I'm not doing that, I only did that under your authority, and so forth. And so that is what I think would I think I've heard a lot of people ask about that. I've actually seen situations like that also. All right, so that is the WhatsApp number. I'll keep flashing it. I sometimes forget that I've to save it up in here. So yeah, and also yeah, I did actually have another situation where the father was forcing the diet and what tradition on the child, and the child was just completely not even, and the mom said, I'm just gonna stop bringing my kids here, because you keep forcing this stuff that the kids are not even interested in, even the diet that he was into and stuff. So in that case, they had the mother's thingy, and so, but you have to advise carefully, because you don't want, you have to remember that they are still under the authority of the thingy. At that point, when a child is still under the authority of the thingy, all of those things they may go through upholding their faith, but then when it comes to the heavier rituals, you know that's where I would say, the child have the advice of a pastor and stuff. All right, good evening, leadership, are you good? Austin is asking, can you please help, what is being expected when you are suspended as a pastor? All right, I'm going to talk about a few scenarios. Oh my goodness, I'm a little bit way lower on the comments. Okay, I'm going to go back up just in a second. Austin B, I'm going to come back to your comment. All right. I was actually here on Menge's comment here where he had asked, leadership, is it okay for a Christian to use a African traditional medicine? Let's understand something. These herbs, there are certain herbs that work at certain things, which also the medical, some of these modern medicines are actually based off of certain roots and what, and they've studied these herbs, or they've studied the the components of these herbs, and they've taken that to actually create the medicines that we have. I'll give you an example. The eucalyptus tree, the eucalyptus, right? In Venda, we call them mubomo. We have these tall trees, which is green, and it's just very, very tall. We mostly find it along the roadside and stuff like that. But it's a very huge, tall tree with this green, very green, heavy green leaves. That leaf is very good for flu and congestion. So the that particular thing, I have to be very careful, because this to YouTube, this might sound like I'm giving health advice. So I have to be careful about how I talk about that. And so those leaves actually are very good to clear congestions, and so, which is why when eucalyptus, the medicine finished in the stores, people were running to get those thingy on the trees, the leaves, because you can just take those leaves, throw it in the thingy, and then boil it. When you boil it, it clears your nasals and stuff like that. And so let's be clear there that some of this but the unfortunate part is that they don't make a separation, right? There is they call it ukehla in Zulu, which is not, which a person does not have to be initiated for. Okay. And so, okay, it's medical herb knowledge, like where they obtain knowledge, they learn it. They are not instructed. They are not instructed to a point where they are initiated. Okay. And so we did used to just dismiss the whole thing without understanding these different branches and stuff like that. But as time went on, the more you studied them, the more you know, which is what I've always advised. Let's seek to understand what exactly is. So then we then later on found out that there is a, of course, nowadays, they'll tell you that inyanga exactly, actually not the sangoma, inyanga. It's actually a term that speaks about a person who knows medicines or they've studied medicines. So, which is a different thing. This one, he doesn't have to throw bones in order to give advice on herbs. There was actually a professor, old man, that passed away. Um, when was that? That was in June, early June. I wanted to talk about it, but I ended up talking about other things. He was a known prophet in Limpopo. Just an old man. He was a he was a pastor in Limpopo. Never rich. He never earned a salary from it. He never earned nothing. He was just a pensioner, and he would advise people in herbs. He passed away early June. He was from Limpopo. Uh, that old man used to be he could advise on herbs. He had learned herbs, which herbs do what, which herbs do what. There was this leaf tree. I used to know it because I myself used to spend a lot of time in the field when I was young. So when you would get sick, my grand would ask you, "What is it? What do you have?" And then you'll say, and then she'll say, "Oh yeah, go get that tree." And what. There was actually a tea that we used to have. It was of a leaf. Now I can't identify it now. I think because nowadays I think they all look alike. But back then she used to do this, especially if we forgot, um, if you forgot our Joko packs and stuff like that, or five roses, and you didn't have any of that, we would go looking for that particular tree. It's a funny small little tree. It When you smell it, you can hear it's edible. Like, it doesn't smell terrible or anything like that. You can smell, when you smell it, the aroma from it, you can hear it smells like tea. I just forgot the name of it. And she would put it into thing right near the fire. It withers a little bit. She throws them inside the pot. They boil. It would turn into tea, And so there is that aspect of it, which people have turned to dismiss. In my village, as a matter of fact, when we were growing up, we didn't have a nyang. We didn't have a nyang, but we did have one granny. She used to read medicines and stuff. And so the unfortunate part of going to a sangoma is that the consulting now involves the spirits, and the person themselves doesn't know the medicine until you actually tell them, I have this issue and what, and then they will have to consult. That is a practice which we are not allowed to get involved. The Bible says they will defile, or they'll bring a defilement. There was a funeral today of a friend of mine, a young lady. We grew up together, man. I've known her for over 15 plus years. And sad enough, she literally went to actually become a thingy. This weekend she passed away. Just after she just did that, and then boom. It's like the devil was just waiting for her to just go through that process 1 or 2 years, and then before you know it, she was thinking. So that is the aspect of that thing. So I don't know how you would navigate those two, how you would navigate umuntu ogedlayo, because they are there. It's just there are those old people, which they are rare, and unfortunately they are also rare. You did kind of have them earlier on, like the early 2000s. They were there. They would just be herb men, basically. They used to walk around the city. Nowadays, you must know what they're giving. You have to know what the tree looks like. You have to know what the herb looks like when it's dried and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more complicated. Best to just go to the hospital. That's that's my view on it. Uh, that's my view on it. But also pray about it. Some of these herbs, because they have the full potency. Because remember, some of these doctors, they will lessen the dosage, and so what happens is that when you lessen the dosage, it just makes you a person who goes back buying and stuff like that, because they're trying to create business and stuff. But nowadays it's just not safe, because some of them are some are juju people and stuff like that. They can make your sickness worse, and some will claim they know that the herbs, only to deceive you and give you wrong herbs, and then it causes all kinds of problems. There was another one, I just forgot what it's called. They used to put it in the, if you had rush, it's a green man with sap. It has a lot of sap in it. They would put it in water, boil it, let it cool off, and then they will rub it around your body. I forgot what it looks like. We hardly went to the doctors. It's funny enough that I'm a little bit young, but I can remember a period when we didn't run up and down with doctors and stuff like that. Because in my area is about 7 different villages that depended on a one hospital, one clinic, let me say, and it was a Roman Catholic clinic. And unfortunately, the old lady that used to manage that, they started retiring, and when they retired, the Catholic Church just kind of like handed over the school, which is the school that I went to. They handed it to government, and the clinic just completely shut down. Our people don't know management with our people is not that the greatest. So for me, it's just best to go to the hospital. There's a lot of things that happen in that space that you might not want to get involved with. Right. Long time no. Hey, leadershiping. How are you doing? Wonderful seeing you again. It's awesome having you. Good evening, mentor. I think fine, based on the apostles who ate the food, even though the people had said it has been prayed for by the gods. And, yes, that's another thing again. You'll remember that even when Paul speaks about, is it Paul? It's Peter. Yes. When he speaks about, it's Paul. It's Paul, my bad. When Paul goes and he starts talking about the food that is offered unto idols, he says the food that offered to idols, it's nothing to a Christian. So you can eat. So there is that there to think about. But he says if there's a brotherhood there who is of weak faith, you would rather not. That's why I say there's so much caution and stuff like that, and unfortunately we just never kept up with it. I'll give you an example of it. My grandmother was Beka Gedla, she was a Gedla. She used to know herbal medicine, but the older we became and the older she became, we became more reliant on hospitals. And but if you were sick so much, you were going to the next village, because my other she's like a twin to my grandmother. You would be going over there, because she knew herbs. She knew herbs. But eventually we also learned some of this herb, like the tea herb that I'm talking about. We knew those ones. There was this other one, this small little one with three little flower thingy. It's still there, that one. It still grows, especially amongst when you plant maize meal. It still grows. It's like sweets. It's sour, of course, but it's like sweet. So if you didn't have you haven't had sweets in a while, you just pick those ones, you just eat them. You eat the thing and not the leaves and the roots. You eat the middle thing. It's like heavy with water inside. We knew these particular herbs. We knew this small little treats and stuff like that. And my granny used to have huge farm, and so I learned so many. Like there were certain trees that we used to use to repel small creatures, snakes, whatnots. So if you were sleeping, you take all the thing, and then you take that particular tree, you go around, you cut, and then you put it around you, you sleep. you know, only when you wake up, only when you wake up, you find the saliva of a snake on the side of it. So you knew you are solid. And so, but unfortunately, as we grew, we forgot those herbs. And I grew up in the village too, like root thingy. But unfortunately, we lost that knowledge, and it just kind of like we became more reliant on hospitals and stuff. So it's more difficult. And so, yeah, kindness was saying he said that worse they for the just to eat and make sure it's herbs. Yeah, so it's important. Pray about that also, because there is a lot of deception in that space nowadays. A lot of these people do not have any idea about the herbs. Okay. Okay, that takes time. It takes a very long time. And these people, they run to that because they don't have the patience of it. It takes time to learn this one, because sometimes these herbs, they dry off, right? Or once they get removed from their thing, they dry off. So it becomes difficult to identify it if you don't know how the tree looks or how the leaves look after a while and stuff like that. So the problem was that we were just dismissing everything instead of acknowledging these aspects of these herbs that are actually good and stuff like that. There was another one. It was along the side of my grandmother's, because my grandmother's farm, there was a huge mountain thingy. So there was a lot of herbs. There was a lot of these herbs around. And so I remember her saying, "Hey, when you see that," she once said it. She said, "Oh yeah, if you see this here next to this tree, don't go there." Like she could just look at a tree. Okay, yeah, you see this tree here. Yeah, there's something that walked here. And at first I wouldn't know. But then, because we used to go a lot, the first thing that we did when we got to the farm, we used to survey the thing. This is how much knowledgeable we were. By just looking at the ground, she would tell you, yeah, something walked here. Okay, something went past here. Hey, we have to look out. There might be a snake inside the farm or what. And 90% of the time, she was right. She might say, "Oh yeah, there's something that passed here," and during the day she screams. Once I hear her screaming, I'm running over there with a stick because I know she found a snake or something like that. I remember one day we went surveying the thingy. We arrived like 5:30 or something like that because we had to protect the maize meal from the monkeys and stuff. So the monkeys would use these farms. They would run around these farms to pick up this maize meal. So we surveyed. She said, "Hey, there's something here. I see something crossed." Okay. During the day, she's busy plowing granates on the side, and she hit it with a pitch, and she just screamed. But she screamed after. She said she didn't even see it, and she had hit it on the head and stuff. But she read it way earlier. And so, but it's unfortunate we've lost that knowledge, a lot of us. So we just have to be careful with things like that and not be deceived, because you go there and then they would read you Bible verses, like what happened to Wudisan Ravere. They read their verses, she felt comfortable. We have to be very careful with things like that, because not everyone knows thingy. And also, if you're dealing with the herbs, man, like the guy that I was just talking about, the old man from Limpopo, it's a bit of a different thing. He's not consulting it. He knows the herbs. He knows this one does that, this one does that. Yeah. There was one who tried to do it with my with someone in my family who she got, we call it band, this thing that comes when you get a rush on your stomach. They say if if that rush goes all the way to around, the person dies. And they try to pull that one, and we're like, oh yeah, no, 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 this one, this particular herb, yeah, it does this, you know. So we dismissed it. We're like, ah, this one is, he's playing games, and he was trying to pretend like he was he had dreamt it. And I'm like, dude, you didn't dream this. We know what properties are in that thing. So it's just not safe nowadays. That's what I would say, you know. Good evening. Okay, so this particular comment from Austin, can you help? What is being expected when you are suspended as a pastor? Now, there are different situations. I don't know if there is a you can give more details on that. I don't know if you can give more details on that. I know that sometimes a church would have its conduct. They will have a conduct thingy that they the rules like they put up, and then if a person crosses that, they may suspend them for that reason. Like for instance, a pastor sleeps with a lady, and it gets to the leadership, or a lady gets pregnant, she's in the choir, gets suspended, or the pastor does something without informing the leadership and he gets suspended. And maybe they might put him off for maybe 4 weeks or something like that from service. So even if he did youth services, he would not be able to perform those particular duties and stuff like that. And so it depends on the situation you mean. I know some people, they will suspend you just so they can control you. You know, that's the unfortunate part of it. That would be the unfortunate. So Astabi, please put a little bit more description so we can know what exactly was the situation that would have led to the suspension. And then we can, if I don't fully go into thinking, I can give other examples if you're still here, so we can have a little bit more understanding on what the situation was that would cause a suspension. Some people, they do consultations, they do what am I talking about? Consultation. they do suspend you just because they're trying to control you, you know, and that's just an unfortunate. I had a situation of a pastor that I knew, very faithful to a church that he was in, and they suspended him for one reason only. They suspended him because he had gone and prayed for someone outside of the leadership knowing, but the leadership was not responding to the lady. It actually led to a formation of a new branch of church back in my thinking. And so something so small, you know, something so small. Uh, and they waited for the pastor to go on holiday, and then boom, they felt, you know, they're called, and then they started their own ministry and stuff. And it kind of broke up that church, you know, to a point where it led to like 6 churches, but they all started from that one church in thingy. And he just said, you know what, I can commission you guys to go in to start other churches because I was also commissioned to come and be a pastor here. So if you can give a little bit more details on what the scenario you're having, or the person that you know is going through that is having, because sometimes it may be a discipline issue, and it is particularly in the code of conduct of that church. And yes, a church should have a code of conduct, so that people don't overstep. They don't overstep decisions made by the church, and so forth. So it just depends. What is the situation exactly? If she hasn't answered in maybe 20-30 minutes, You guys can remind me of that, and then I'll go back into the details. Yes, some of them they do make sense. Some, unfortunately, they will just do that just to frustrate you and keep you in control. Wellington, leadership in a long time. Leadership is the a phone in link. Yes, I'll publish the link just now. Just give me a few minutes to read some of these comments, and then I'll publish the call in link just now. Danko leadership, wonderful seeing you. Oh my goodness, time is flying. Tamara says good evening. Waves, waves. Is this pink salt and odd rituals that are the issue in African tradition? Exactly. It's the additional stuff, the normal herbs stuff. There's nothing, because that they learn that, and that's what they don't tell you. They make it sound so spiritual, and they just listen to what the issue is, and they are taught this is the medicine that goes with that, and then they'll go on lying about that. And it's not that, it's really not that deep. Let me tell you, guys, some of these herbs, they're very easy to learn. They're very easy to learn. Like you know, oh no, this type of root systems, they are good for this. Oh yeah, those root systems, they are good for this. Like the tea thing that I'm telling you. I think there was about three tree. Yeah, there was about three tree leaves. There was these small ones. Um I forgot the name of that small one. I completely forgot these things. The small one, I can still identify it if I smell it. You know, because there is a tree that is a very vile smell that looks like it exactly. I just forgot what it's called. Um, it just completely goes off my head. It's right at the tip of my of my tongue. But those that tree, you would distinguish it by smelling it. They look exactly the same. I just forgot the name. When they are green and thingy, they look like they have small little thingy that pick out of the leaves. But when you pick it, if you pick one leaf and you smell it, or just the branch of the tree, you'll be able to distinguish the two of them. And so nowadays they're adding, there's all these things that they supposedly spiritual, and that stuff had nothing to do with being spiritual. It was just herbs, the normal herbs. And also the belief, this is what of Peter to minister to the Jews, to clarify messianic Jewship. Yeah. And so they have now added another angle on this, and which is the spiritual stuff. Like, I'll give you another example. The candle thing, the candle whole thing. And also, let's understand something. Rituals evolve, you know, rituals evolve, which is the very dangerous thing. I think I spoke about this on YouTube, not on Facebook, not on YouTube. So I just want to explain that a little bit. Some of the dangers of these things is that these spirits need people to heavily weigh in on the practice with the spirits to evolve the rituals, to evolve the rituals. Like, for example, a soothsayer, right? A soothsayer. I forgot the name for the one who speaks with the serpent. I forgot the name of that. But it became very popular, and it kind of came back after J.K. Rowling wrote about it in the Harry Potter movies, which was the dangers, by the way. The first Harry Potter movie, the rituals were very, very ritual. Like the things that they were saying, the spells, they were very ritual. She didn't even know it because the book was given to her in a vision. She was traveling from one city to another city, and she had opened herself to this thing. And she if you read the memoir where she actually talks about how the Harry Potter story came about. She says Harry Potter himself came to her. The spirit came to her and communicated that whole thing, that whole narrative, Hogwarts, what, and all those things, that spells. And so these beings need that. They need people to heavily weigh in on practicing this thing so that it can evolve the rituals. That's why people like a Sangoma, it's exactly what they need. They need a person like that who's going to give themselves wholly to just ritual practice. That's a very dangerous position because that person is just serves nothing else but to be. That's why once a person becomes all these things and they start wearing amahia everywhere they go, they are, their face are painted or they have thingy, their hair is colored in all those things, they have clips from the sea, and what they have now dedicated their body to rituals. That's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. Aleister Crowley, one of the craziest magicians of the last century. Aleister Crowley, what was it that Aleister Crowley did for for a lot of cults is that he had evolved so many rituals. Like there were rituals that were practiced in the 1700s that were not perfectly understood, which they were very dangerous. He practiced them, and he practiced all these rituals. But then there was a period of his life, especially towards the elderly years, when he approached 50s and into the 60s. He saw that a lot of the rituals that involved sexual magic were had this heavy potency. So ritual sex, he perfected that. That guy perfected. And so his latter part of his years, he focused solely on ritual magic, and the people that came from him, the proteges and whatnot and stuff like that, they then joined the Church of Satan. And if you listen to the testimony of William Schnobelin, he explains that process, that they would allow you to go through all these ranks. And that's why the Catholic Church is accused of all these things, because as part of growing as a warlock, being a priest was what was advised. And he said that's something that they will not tell you. That's why these pastors get moved around all over the place. Pastor will go somewhere, he does something wrong, they just move him to one other place, because remember that the Catholic Church had the Jesuit arm, which practiced a lot of divination in its thinking. And some of the archives of the Catholic Church, the reason why they started the witch hunting, burning, witch hunting, witch burning, is because they wanted to preserve the rituals by themselves. They wanted to retain the powers of these rituals, and not because they had seen it, And so white people evolved magic way quicker than black people got into it. Ubungoma is just an extension of that. It's an extension of a person who's completely devoted to ritual practice. So that's a most dangerous person, because once a person gives themselves to rituals like that, William Schnobelin explained that there was a point of his life he almost died, because he had been only consuming things that pertain to rituals, to a point where he couldn't eat normal food. He was just eating all these things that are from rituals, whether it be blood, what, just sick. And so it's very dangerous when you think about it from that angle. So that's what they don't see when you say, the reason why the Bible tells us not to involve ourselves in these things is that that's why you see that the priests of the temple, they didn't leave the temple. The only thing they did was the practice of the rituals within the temple. And so now we are the temple. So the one thing that we are now devoted in is the one act of worship, which is a form of veneration, honor to God, which is constantly happening in our decision making, what and all this. So that's why we don't have any rituals as Christians, whether it be incense burning, we don't have any rituals because the highest sense of any form of ritual you could do is being done in the body, worship. And so unfortunately, they'll take forever for them to understand. But do you have a recommendation in Durban? I really remember you are in Durban. Yeah. That's why we started that whole thing of church recommendations, because that way it would be easier for people to find churches instead of asking me, I don't know all these churches. Good evening, Ricky. All that are connected, much love from Botswana leadership. Wonderful having you. Wonderful having you. And so, yeah, on that one, be very careful. Ricky, why do you visit? I don't do that. Why would I visit a Sangoma? There's nothing I need there that they have for me. I don't visit Sangomas. I understand perfectly well what would happen if the devil would just kill me the moment I enter there. Say, kill him in the wrong, kill him. So I don't visit that stuff. So unless maybe you misunderstood something or so. Greetings, Ricky and the brothers. Greetings, Jessica. What is the purpose of the church? The purpose of the church is to create fellowship between brethren, but also accountability amongst the brethren in aspects of doctrine, life standards, and a clear perception of relationship with God. So this is the purpose of the church. The purpose of the church is it's an environment that creates fellowship amongst the believers. So we come into one, we are in agreement in worship, we are in agreement in prayer. And so this creates an environment of doctrine. So when one person errs in doctrine, we are able to correct. That's the purpose of the church. Because remember, the scattering of in Babel was these ideas that they started developing doctrinally that strayed people from God. And so the purpose of the church is to build that around God. It builds that around God. So that's the purpose of the church. Nowadays, people have their own agendas, so they put that as the purpose of the church. They'll create social justice as a place as a duty of the church. Nah. God doesn't need us to do that. We know what is right. We know so we can enforce what is right and stuff in the society. We don't need to take the church and the church be the one that does that. The church is a place for relationship and doctrine with the fellow believers and stuff. It creates an environment where if you are straying, we can correct. Because we are that's why he says our Father, I don't say my Father, it's our Father. Yes, in my private prayer, I might say my Father, but it's our Father in the sense that you know him, I know him. So you can't claim some private, it's a we thing. And so that's the purpose of the church. It keeps all of us. That's why he says, stray away from anybody that does not want to fellowship with others, because it's in isolation that the devil, like how does he deal? How do animals deal with prey? They isolate them from the others. And so the church keeps you away from being isolated in doctrine, in your viewpoints, and in all these practices. So that's the purpose of the church. Okay, I see a thread of questions related to speaking to Christ directly. A Holy Spirit indwells a person with the will be made to gravitate away from seeking communication with spirits uh, and angels, etc. Yes, and also, you know, when you have a question on subject matters of something that you want an answer for, um, you might not to seek an answer in the Bible would be best. You know, research, find, does the Bible talk about this, and if it does, how, the scenarios that you see in the Bible, um, hate, forgiveness, um, a work environment that is entitled to one person or whatnot, communism. The Bible answers all these ideas of, um, entitlement. The Bible talks about that as well. You know, you have the older brother come back after the prodigal son. It returns to the house. He says, you've never given me entitlement. He thought he was forgiven by just being in the house, but he didn't realize that even in that perception that he was doing the right thing, he was in error. So it teaches you a lot. The workers parable, where he hires some in the morning, he hired some in the afternoon, some at noon, some at the last hour, and the people that came first to be hired, they complained, why are we getting paid the same thing that the people that just came an hour ago? And he says he determines the reward. And so there you go with, someone might come now and preach for 1 year, and God gives them this audience, a huge audience. It is God that assigns people to a certain leadership and stuff. And so, because one feels entitled to an audience, because they, which is what I've said about Apostle, what's her name? Catherine Crick or whatnot, that young lady. That's her problem. Catherine feels like, because she's been a good girl, she grew up a church girl, she kept herself for God, she was not out there doing whatnot. She feels like because she was that person, everybody should listen to her. So as a result, it makes her devalue doctrine to whatever she wants. And unfortunately, she's just a little girl who's confused. I don't know how people listen to that girl. I don't get it. She annoys the life out of me. Catherine Crick annoys the life out of me because she so disregards correction. She hates it so much. It offends her because she looks at all of us and she talks about how good of a person. And we're like, we didn't ask you if you're good. What are you talking about? You're doctrinally false. You're foul, as a matter of fact. But, people have elevated it to a point where she just went from YouTube. She now has a church, and the things that she's doing, oh my goodness. The things that, so it's that, is that people come to a point of being entitled and what. So it helps sometimes when you have questions, just really research it. Is it there? Prayerfully dealing with it to a point where, so God navigates it for you and you'll find an answer. Someone might actually come and quote a verse, and before you know it, that verse that they quote for you actually is relevant to the question you just had, And so, but people don't trust God like that, That's another topic. People don't trust God like that, They don't think if I have a question, God is going to give me an answer, I believe that with my life. Like, I'll have a dream now. I'm like, note it down. It will clarify. It will be clear. There's this. It will be clear. And yes, it always clears up. Always have an answer. Oh, okay, it's this. It means this. Because if you're so reliant on things, we have to be so reliant on God to that level, before asking things. And also just research with prayer, you know. You'll get more further. You'll get more further with that. And so people don't understand that process. They don't want that process of praying about something and asking God and then reading the Bible to find and all those things. They would rather have an instant answer. Ask a prophet, have an angel communicate to them, or a spirit. Wrong forms. They engage in wrong forms within their practice. All right, I think this thing just scrolled all the way down. Greetings, Julia. Leadership. How are you doing? Wonderful seeing you. It's my first time seeing you in the comments. Is it your first time on the channel? Maybe you've watched the videos and commented, but it's my first time seeing you on a live stream. Just don't consult. Yes, just don't consult. Like I said, if you can get answers. Matsi, did you change your profile? There was that one that you were wearing a beanie, because I was not recognizing you on this picture because you're wearing a cap. I'm only seeing it by the name now. I'm like, Hypo. Matsi, I think this is okay. Did you change you change the old profile? Yeah, don't. It's dangerous nowadays, unfortunately, And just a reminder, a lot of people do not know herbs. They can prescribe herbs that are wrong and stuff like that. That is an aspect of it. And those old people that used to know those things, there are not so many. And many of them, they end up being initiated. I remember watching one particular Sangoma who was saying, yeah, as a matter of fact, Umuntu Kela is not even supposed to be initiated. I'm like, yeah, because they are not a Sangoma. They are not that. It's something they learned. But nowadays, Jesus, talking about the tea, Hana Litia Vana in the field out there. Just say, hey, leadership, you'd forget, we used to, with my granny, we used to live before the sun comes out, we must be in the field. And so it will be easy for you to just forget something she would say, pack them at night. And then at night you are busy there being lazy. So before you know it, we are now in the field looking for tea leaves. How do you feel about bacon and pork? I didn't eat bacon and pork for a very long time. I only actually started eating it as an adult. I can even count the number of years, actually. I think even beef, I didn't eat beef for a very long time. So a lot of people used to say because pig it's unhealthy and so forth and so forth, right? It eats what and all those things, so they used to, it was around that idea. There was a reason why God kept these animals off of the diet of these people, particularly the people that were doing all this in the Israelites in particular. For us, you'll remember Peter gets a vision when he's about to go to the Gentiles, because remember, to communicate the message to the Gentiles. So he's given a platter with all these meats. And he says, I will not eat. And then God asks him, are you not going to eat even if it's God that's telling you to eat? And Peter is very clear. That's a vision. That was a vision from God. And he says, you're not going to eat what God has created. And so I remember one particular thing that Tamara once said when we were studying, what was the subject? It was part of the Old Testament right after going out of the garden. And so food, there's certain meats that were not food until they got out of the garden, right? And so a lot of people miss that. They miss that these things were not food in the garden. They became food outside the garden. That's number one. Then there were those that were restricted. Then these ones that were restricted, they become clear when we get into the New Testament. You see Jews eating fish and all this type of stuff. Now, the Bible doesn't tell us what kind of fish. Whether it's tilapia, it's what, it's the Bible doesn't tell us that. Now, but because of biology and stuff, biologists have studied a lot of these fishes. And I remember one particular Bible study that we went, and they were just talking about that, because I was in these Bible studies with these Jews, and they were explaining why certain fish were restricted. It's because of this one, it's what and what and what and all these things. And so when we come into the New Testament, it's very clear that that's not an issue, right? That's not an issue. They go outside. You see Jews, like you look at the interactions that they have when they go outside of Judea, outside of Jerusalem. They're interacting, because you have to understand, in the Old Testament, they used to carry their own food to avoid having to purchase other people's food, right? And like when you had to do a sacrifice and you sold the food items that you were supposed to use for sacrifice, you didn't buy those food items on the way. You only bought those food items when you got to Jerusalem, which is what then enriched a lot of people in Jerusalem. Like the temple guys, they started enriching themselves by that system because they knew people had to come to Jerusalem all the way in order to make the currency exchange and then to purchase some of these animals. So it is very much clear that they were separated when it comes to food for the sake of creating rituals for the rituals that they had to do, which they were not eating, but they would be eaten in the temple, right? But then at the same time, an animal that was without blemish, if you go back to that, yes, there is a spiritual implication of that, is that it's a representation of Christ who is without blemish. We understand that. But then why an animal that was without blemish? Because you might take an animal that has a blemish in the sense that it is wounded. The wound is infected. And so you wouldn't take an animal like that, or an animal that is lame. The term in the Old Testament would be lame as well. And so we have to understand why this. That's why I said I want us to do a study on the type of sacrifices. Okay, we're still gonna do that as we continue with the 600 laws, right? So that will be a separate study on what type of animals were they giving sacrifice, where do you see it, what not. That might be the next study, by the way, and stuff. And so let's understand why they had these animals that were restricted. But then when Peter sees he speaks about 4-footed animals, whatnot, all this. He speaks about all range of animals inside there. A lot of people do not like thinking about that verse, because that verse shows you that all food is for food. He says, as long as it is given in prayer, that's the criteria. The criteria is that the food itself, it's given in prayer and it's received. So it's given in prayer and it's received in thanksgiving. And so that goes for that prayer that we make before we eat, right? And stuff like that. And so people dismiss that because they don't understand how that fits into it. So the platter that thing was a buffet. Okay, yeah, Peter is the first person to get a buffet in the Bible. So he had a buffet of all forms of animal, and it says 4-footed animals, whatnot, all range of animals, and he refused because there was nothing in that platter. Notice, it wasn't that there were food that were right for eating. It was only those that were not in there that you see, because he didn't. It wasn't like he was saying he's not gonna eat this, he's gonna eat this. He says he will never eat what was provided in that thing. We understand the spiritual implication is that God is bringing to the Jews the right of taking the message to the Gentiles. We understand that because that's when he's going to minister to the Gentiles. So he doesn't think of them as impure. Because remember, even Jews, the Gentiles were not even allowed within the cords of things. So there was the cord for Gentiles in the temple. So you wouldn't even integrate with them. There would be in another section, you would be in another section. So these topics about food were cleared there. But the problem with us is that we carry the Old Testament laws and we do not prize what happens when the apostles now have an interaction with these things. When Paul would go into all these other areas and whatnot and stuff, you will notice that thing. Food topics die out in the New Testament, completely die out. When the disciples are traveling with Jesus, you will not hear food restrictions when they're traveling. As a matter of fact, they went as far as eating during the times when you were not supposed to be picking, right? These topics are dealt with in the Bible, and it kind of navigates for you, because remember, we look at the totality of Scripture, right? And so we look at how does the subject as a whole translate in the New Testament. And so my biggest issue when I started studying subject matters of diet and what and all these things in my early years, when I started to understand thingy, one thing I did was look at how the apostles interacted with food items, and you will not see restriction. You will not see it. They went into areas where you would not generally would have had thingy. And look at what the first thing that he says. He says, when Jesus sends them on a mission, okay, because he sends them out, he says, if you go to a city and they invite you, go in and eat. And he even says, do not even ask what is given you. Take that and eat. Y'all remember that, And so for me, when I was kind of like creating my theological beliefs around food items, you couldn't convince me not to eat pork. I just didn't eat it because I had never eaten it. But the Bible was showing, why when they went into these places, he says, yeah, whatever they give you, take that and eat. He didn't. What verse is that? I just remember that verse. Let me see if I can spot it. It's in the New Testament. I found it. It's in the book of Luke, chapter number 10. This was a crucial verse for me back then, because there's no asking here. He's not asking. They're not asking. Right. So it says, this is Jesus, Luke chapter number 10, verse number 6. And if a man of peace is there, so if you're going up to different houses, they're on a mission, remember, they're not at their house. And your peace will rest on him. If not, it will return unto you. He's talking about this thing of, when you hear me say, I wash my hands of it. That's that thing, is that, my peace is unto something or it's not. I depart with, And so it's biblical to say, if I'm not welcome, just get out. Don't be over there. Don't force your situation. Don't force people on you. Don't force yourself on people. And so it's a biblical thing. It's biblical to do that. I'm not gonna chase a person who doesn't know. If the person wants to go, you can go. It's okay, And then he says, stay at that same house eating and drinking whatever you are offered. Look at that. For a worker is worthy of his wages. Do not move around from house to house. So, whatever house you went to first and they received you, eat whatever they give you there. That was a very crucial verse for me in my early part of my walk, because I had to you have to you have to have a doctrinal dissertation, I think that's what they call it in university, of why you believe thingy. And so the Bible in this verse, I believe, shows you that in the way that they moved when they were with Christ, even when they later on, they applied this. They went to a house, and even when he talks about the sacrifice, this is Paul now. This is way after the apostles. He says, if you go and they give you food that is offered to idols, eat. So you apply that to the advisor we were talking about earlier on, with a child who's been whatnot and stuff like that. Has to be, have to give advice rightly, right? And so personally, eat. If you do eat, if you don't eat, it's okay. Don't create a doctrine out of food. That's not. Remember, Paul later on says, do not let anybody judge you on food items, right? Let me see. Let me pick that verse. It's Colossians chapter number 1. It says, and having disarmed the powers and authorities, he made a public spectacle of them, okay, triumphing them over them by the cross. He says, therefore, so this is what applies, okay? Jesus ran over all these things. You cannot put anything over Jesus. That's arrogance of the highest order. He says, therefore, let no one judge you by what you eat. So there you go. So Paul then qualifies the vision that Peter got right there. Don't let anybody judge you on what you eat or drink. And with regard of a feast or a moon or a Sabbath, these things were but a shadow. They were a shadow. They communicated a message. And that's what we should have got from them. So they give you to eat. Don't create a doctrine over these things to create division between you and them because you have a preference of food. That's why you've heard me make videos about that lady Narrowgate. And I said, it's ridiculous. She'll be there telling us that not to eat maize meal. And then before you know it, God says we can eat maize meal. So excuse me, what was wrong with us eating maize meal all this while when you restricted it? It's silly. Okay. So there are more bigger issues to be thinking about. So there's nothing, it is a rather confusing subject. Some eat it and some do not. They're getting hung up by not clearing their doctrine, because they're reading the Old Testament verses and not understanding that the progression of doctrine with the apostles. All food were offered to Peter. Take and eat, the Lord says. And he says, do not reject anything. Go read that particular passage where Peter gets a platter of it. He says, do not call what God has purified impure. That is particularly, he's very firm on that one. And then you have this type of examples that I just gave right now. All right. I don't know. I think I gave a much more bigger answer than it's because it's the first time I have that question. So thank you very much. Highly appreciate it. All right. So let's not create restriction on such a subject of food and stuff. But great question. It's the first time I've had that question. That's why maybe I had such a long answer. It's because you have to do your doctrinal dissertation. Basically, think about what is it that makes sense biblically, right? Why did Jesus tell them, when you get to the house, they give you food you eat? That makes sense. What if they're eating exactly? And so it's a very interesting one right there. True, don't cause a brother to. Absolutely. Pelo, what does your conscience tell you? It is leave it alone, but if not, feel free. Yeah, he says, remember, he says, if you eat without faith, you condemn yourself. So that's why I say create a doctrinal dissertation around that, right? And so if you believe it's you don't want to eat that, you don't eat that unto God, right? That's what the Bible says. All things that we do in faith. All things that we do unto the Lord. And so, perfectly said right there. All right. Make sure that the person in business is clear and known as being totally different from, yes, from a Sangoma or Tagati. If the lines are oftenly publicly blurred, maybe find someone else and give your money to to God's people. Yeah, that's why I say go to the health system, find a public hospital, and go there. You know, and of course, people will then ask you about subjects of those illnesses that are very difficult to cure and stuff. Pray about that one. I wouldn't advise on something like that. You know, pray about that one. It's there's been times where my mother would be sick, like crazy sickness. Okay. And my advice is that just eat pap and drink water. And then maybe she'll eat with something, and I'm like, nah, don't eat with anything, just eat pap raw. you know Mom, it's funny, like, my mom takes my advice as my mom takes my advice as if it's Bible. She takes my advice as if it's Bible. And so, at one point she was sick, and it was like that. It was very hectic. So I was like, now, do you drink, eat pap with nothing, just so that you don't create confusion or thingy. Pap raw thingy, and you eat it this number of times, then you drink your water this often, this much, it'll flush out all these things. And it's always funny when she responds back, she just responds with a picture. you know Responds with a picture. She had a problem at one point, that was like a medicine or some that was irritating her body and stuff. And I'm talking about my mother. Don't ask me about you. Yes, don't do that. And so she had this issue, and so I just told her, just don't mind it. It's gonna go. you know, it was affecting other things. Like I was like, nah, don't worry, it's gonna go. Just drink water. It's gonna go. And she didn't ask no questions. She didn't ask no questions. I said that. She took that. She drank water for 2-3 days, and 2 weeks later, she was back up. She was back up. Like no medicine, nothing. She didn't take nothing. I said, drink water. Yeah, drink water and eat pap raw with nothing. No meat, no salt, nothing. Just remove all these things. There's a reason why they give you pap because they know it's very much basic. And so just take that and drink water. And in a matter of a week, she was back up. And that thing that was the other things that were being affected, they went back to normal like that in a heartbeat. And so some of these things are very much basic, just understanding how the body works and stuff like that. But don't call me asking me. No. I have faith for my mom. Okay. It's a different thing when you're talking about someone else. Pray, just rely on, just pray. God will answer you. Right. And so there's another question I saw. So yeah, we answered this question. Yeah, yeah. So on subjects of food, yeah, do don't be condemned about that, but also have a doctrinal dissertation about that, just how you think biblically about those particular subject. All right, the lines are blurred, and Asagani, there's a lot of verses. What are the subjects around the verses? What are the subjects around the verses? What is the Bible? What is the Bible's position on all music is all music? Okay, music is all music. So what you want to do is the problem with a lot of this gospel rap or hip hop rap, which is why I used to love hip hop music. And so when people started talking about hip hop rap in 2011, 2012, I'd I'd only been saved for like 3-4 years. I didn't accept it at all. For me, it was a facade. It was a fake. It was thingy. But of course, after a while, you understood. It's all music. The problem is that a lot of people that do those things, the people themselves that practice that do the music and what, they tend to be very worldly. It's very few times you will find people that are not worldly doing the music. And so that's the area that is concerning, is that the person that's doing it, where are they? For example, Lecrae. When Lecrae became famous, because remember, Lecrae was one of the people that made hip hop rap popular. And so when he became popular, Hollywood started receiving him. Lecrae stopped. He started saying, "No, stop calling me a Christian rapper. I'm just a rapper." And because he wanted to be aligned with Hollywood. And Hollywood had him around, oh, wonderfully denounced Christians. And he said he doesn't make Christian music, he just makes music. And we're like, brother, it's not worth it. you know, Funny now, Lecrae is online on YouTube wanting to rebuke people. And we're like, dude, the same person who, when you were being rebuked in 2011 and so forth, you didn't want it. So most of these people's, their heart is mostly in the wrong place and stuff. And so that's the concerning thing. But music is music, let's be I do find that a lot of people try to create a criteria for what kind of music we should listen to. I don't think that's wise. I think we listen to certain music for different reasons. I love listening to classic music because classic music was my warfare music. That was my warfare music. When I was going through or dealing, I listened to classic music. Hans Zimmer, Time. There's a song called Hans Zimmer. It's called Time. I've played that song from 2008, 2010 till date. It's still my theme song. Difficulty, what do you name it? That's the song. It was not gospel. Gospel music was not my was not my most strongest, because I had also wanted to try and weed out music as a whole. So I can sit almost an entire day without listening to a song. And so, because I had started listening to classical music, and classical music just kind of like flattens your mind. You start to, you're a lot more sober and think music is all music. Just be clear on the goals of this thing, because a lot of this music, when I used to skate when I was in high school, I used to listen to punk rock music. Funny enough, I used to listen to Green Day. I used to listen to those kind of bands, Two Steps from Hell, those groups, those very heavy groups. And then over time, I found that I listened to certain music for certain things. I found that certain hip hop music, it makes me very aggressive. So I stopped listening to it. Like there were certain songs that I listened to that it was just, I'll be pissed, if you bump me. So I had to stop listening to that because I realized it made me very angry. It made me take on emotions that I didn't have and stuff like that. And so, but then there is music that I listen to because it means something. It's just different. It has nothing to do with the song. It's just that when that particular song was popular, I might have been at my worst. And that was the song that I listened to. Like I remember listening to the song Monata. What's his song? Ska Bora Mureki. For me, Mureki song, it's not about the buyer or what. Mureki for me was at a point when career was I didn't have direction. I would have thought of myself as a person career-wise who didn't have direction. So the song was popular at a time when I was behind. And so I saw that song as a goal. Like I saw this for me. So if you came to me and you said, Ricky, don't listen to this song. This song is worldly. No, you don't understand what the song meant to me. For me, that song it's a goal. And so I can have but also I come from the era of, what's his name? DJ Mbuso, Oskido, house grooves and whatnot. And the beat that plays on Ska Bora Mureki, it's a song from way back. It's not the song that Munada put his own lyrics, but the beat that plays on that song, it's from way back, And so sometimes you'll attack people for. There are songs which are straight out diabolical, satanic and whatnot and all those things. But there are songs that to a certain person, it's attached to a certain memory. Like there's this song by DJ Mbuso, Tembisa what groove. That song is a song for distraction for me. When I was in high school, I had a friend called Jones. If me and Jones were going home from school and we heard that song, we are going to the club today. So when I remember that song, when I hear that song, it just reminds me, a person was living dangerous out there. So you just never know what a person. Sometimes Christians, they just want to attach everything. It might not even be related to that, But anyways, music is just music at the end of the day. But the songs carry a message and stuff like that. There are songs that were made, like when I used to listen to punk rock. That's when I heard about this thing of the record labels would pray over songs, or they'll pray over these songs before they sent them out. Yeah, that became very popular with rock music. The rock music genre used to have that. You don't hear that about a lot of songs now. Now, a lot of people will take that idea from the punk rocks and whatnot, and then will try and imply it on all music. It's not always the case, It was a thing back then with the CDs and all these things and that entire genre. But listen to music that glorifies God. It's now you might have songs that are not Christian or thing. Like I listen to classic music. I find myself listening more to classic music because it helps. It has become a thing for me, processing my thought process. Someone might come and say, Ricky, this so I hunt more movie scores. So the songs that they play on the movie thingy, I like those type of songs. Those are the songs that I literally go looking to find and stuff. So someone might come and say, this is from a devilish movie. The song is completely different. But we just make big deals out of that. Sometimes it has nothing to do with anything, honestly speaking. Well answered. I think this case of suspension is for controlling as well as abuse. Okay, all right. I'm glad you did see the thingy. Yeah, some of these pastors they will suspend you or thing. I have a friend by the name of Melusi. He also had an issue with this church and it was just an issue of control. He had not done anything wrong or anything like that, but they were just wanting him to do things that it had nothing to do with his duties in that church, and so they suspended him because of that. And so just some suspensions, sometimes you just take it to the chin because the pastor is being proud or something like that. Like I've had people comment things that are, you just know that this is. I remember in one church, I'll give you an example instead of I'll give you an example. I was in this church. Um, when we used to do Bible studies, they'll do these comments and comments, like, hey, you see this verse, what do you think about it? You see this comment, what do you think about it? I'm a very heavily studied person, I spent years studying the Bible, years before I was doing this. And so there's many verses that there's very few verses you can say something you can put before me that I haven't read or had a thought about, because I've studied for a very long time. So it's just casual that when you have a verse, I'm just going to have something to say, right? And so, but it came to a point where the pastor, I don't know, he felt threatened by that because the pastor was not well learned biblically. He's educated like in other fields and stuff like that. He's a very educated man. I don't know why he felt threatened by that, because I didn't comment in church. I only commented in the Bible studies, and the Bible studies would have like 5-10 people or something like that. And so they put an assignment on this guy who used to run these Bible studies to kind of like stop me from commenting and stuff. And so over time, I kind of like noticed it. When I start commenting, he would start saying things like that have nothing to do with it. I'm like, what is he doing? But then I would realize, like, the moment I keep quiet, he keep quiet. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I just left it. So come to find, the pastor felt a certain way. And one day in one of the morning prayers, we used to do these morning prayers from like 5 o'clock in the morning. We go to do the prayer. This guy raises a subject we had discussed individually, because we had a quarters where we stayed as with a group of guys watching over the church. So he raises a topic we had in the house, and he brings the pastor, and I'm like, why would you do that? And I told him why I don't debate in church. Like, we would debate our subjects outside, but not in church. And I told him the problem is that once your pastor comes, I cannot answer, because your pastor is going to want to win the argument because you are his proteges. I'm just an outsider. And he called the pastor, and I'm like, you had to destroy the conversation, and the pastor was way off. He was interpreting things wrong. He was interpreting verses. And so I try to show him with a few, like, no, but that verse contextually does not apply to that. And I did that with like 3 verses that he quoted. And he was just not buying. We would keep quoting new verses. I'm like, you're over quoting verses to subject the topic. You're not over quoting because you've understood the verse that you quoted. Because whenever he quotes a verse, I would answer. The worst thing you can do is overquote when you're talking to me or when you're debating me, because there's a possibility that I know the context and I've studied the context behind that verse as it relates to the topic. And so he would overquote, and I'm like, yeah, but the context around that verse is about this. Oh, yeah, but what about this verse? He quotes another verse, and I'm like, okay, dude, how long are you going to do that? So I just left him. I'm like, oh, okay. So the guys got excited. Yeah, the pastor silenced him, and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's so childish. I don't care to be embarrassed by someone. I don't care. I know you're being childish at the point when you just want to win the argument for the sake of. You're a Christian, and when you're being given reasonable thinking, that's exactly my point of view when I went to that show, more, yeah, what. And the lady just kept arguing over me. And I'm like, you think I care to be embarrassed on TV? You can go ahead. You can win the argument. You're being silly, And so I just kind of left it because I could see the person. So you might have a situation like that where the pastor is just being proud and he's doing it out of pride, you know. And so the pastor, I think he kind of saw that he was wrong. Later on, he's like, yeah, no, but this is the funny part. He came to me when those guys were not there. I'm like, dude, it's just, it was just not necessary for you to do that in front of them. As if that's simple. So yeah. And then later on, he wanted to tell me why I shouldn't don't do apologetics. And I'm like, dude, I'm not here for that. God gave me a dream to come here and help you. That pastor that I told you, I had gotten a dream to go and help at their church. And so I'm like, dude, I'm not coming here for you to teach me how to do my ministry. I'm very clear on that. I'm here to help you with your media stuff. But anyways, so yeah, there are places where you might find a pastor is doing that for control. Just let it be. Don't fuss around with things like that, you know. Cowardly psycho, and he summoned an angel and didn't do the proper ritual, and which led to a total loss of life. And he was an occultic member, but after his this he's early Satanist with now today, and he must have missed. Even the devil can disguise himself as an angel of light. He trusted and being someone himself. But yeah, no, a lot of people find themselves in that position, and it becomes very dangerous. You know, I remember the Led Zeppelin guys when they did "Pleased to Meet You." Hope you bless my name. That song ended up with all of them dying before the age of 35. All of them, like all of them, you know. And if you go back and you study the period of the 1980s and 1980s, 80s, 70s, 80s, all those rock stars that sang demonic songs, even Elvis Presley, Elvis, when Elvis would do interviews, secret interviews, they recorded him secretly, you know. Elvis, when he went to his late years, he tried to draw a Christian crowd. You'll remember. Um, I used to love music, guys. I used to love music, and and that entire period. If you've been on any of the lives, I've probably described that. I love the 1960s, 70s till date. I still go back and rewind, watch TV shows from back then and stuff like that. So that was a heavily researched period for me, from television, music, media. I used to have a hard drive that just consisted of like old stories, like old um, print and stuff like that, and just print newspaper clippings and from back then and stuff like that. So I used to love that genre of period. So that's why rock and roll became one of my favorites when I was in high school. And if you study the people that was in that period, a lot of them died because they got involved with the seances. The seances were very popular. By the way, seances is like a sangoma. They communicate with the dead and so forth. Robert Menard, the guy who became a Seventh-day Adventist, when you listen to his testimony, that's one of the things that he actually describes. Just a second, let me see if I remember. And he explains something along those lines. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, I think that's him. No, it's not him. That's not him. Jesus Christ. He explained, there's this video where he explains uh, the rituals he got involved in that were meant to make him prosperous. And the reason why he started to turn them down, oh my goodness, I can't find him. Speaking. He explains that in that period, he started to have the spirit that was communicating to him at the back of his ear, and he would meet musicians, very popular musicians, who would come into the seances, and they would have messages communicated to them, and they would communicate that message straight into their songs, which is the very same practice that Michael Jackson got into, sleep meditation. They call it sleep meditation or something like that. Jeez, I can't find it. It's called sleep meditation. He would get into these trances in order to get messages. And that's what they assumed that's what killed him. It's just that they don't want to say. Is that he was no longer falling asleep. So he was putting himself under heavy medication more than what was required in order for him to fall into these trances so he can get new songs for that tour that he was actually about to actually do. And so when I was looking through all these musicians from the 80s, Robert, there's this guy called Robert Thingy, the guy who sang Hellhound on My Trail. Most of those musicians, they were conjuring spirits. They were involved in some type of incantation that involved spirit worship. It's exactly what the Sangomas are doing. And so when you see all of these things that you see nowadays, this stuff has been done and done over 10 times over. The unfortunate thing is that it's just so difficult to communicate it to people that have convinced themselves. Yes, Crowley. He had completely devoted, and remember, Crowley, you do actually see him in the Beatles album. They put him on one of their album covers and stuff like that, because they were taking on the messages that he was translating, and then that led them to the Magi's, the Indian spiritualists and stuff like that. And that's when you had all these influences of people falling under the Holy Spirit. That's when it became popular. And guess what? That was influence around the 70s. I once spoke about that on the live stream. I won't repeat that. But it's fascinating that we literally have that period right in the 80s and 70s that become popular. And also televangelists were becoming a thing by the 70s and the 80s and stuff. And so when you go back and you study those particular early rock musicians, blues musicians, Sam House, he's an old folk music player. He used to play blues. He speaks about the people that he encountered that had a demonic influence over their music, and so they would pray over their music, and he would actually the records would be submitted over. Sam Hounds actually, when he spoke about Robert, just let me see if I can remember that guy's name. I keep forgetting these names. Sam. There is a song called Hotel California, and the term Hotel California, some weird reason, became a term that actually referenced a place, blues. Yeah, this one. Okay, I think I found it. Okay, just the thing is that you tend to forget this thing. This is Sam House. When he had an interview where they asked him, like, some of the people that he encountered, Robert and so forth, the people of that period of the 60s and so forth, And Sam House explained an experience where he had had with a musician who was absolutely terrible, and he would not want to give them a guitar. And when they went and came back, he says over a period of about 6 months, the person was the best player. And he asked him, he says he went and he asked him, excuse me, why? What has happened? Yeah, Robert Johnson. There it is. There it is. So the person he was talking about, the person who Sam House was talking about was Robert Johnson, this guy. Robert Johnson could not play for nothing. But then Robert Johnson went to a particular corner in his state, and he met the devil there. There's been a lot of music that has been made about that corner and whatnot. Um, Highway 49 or whatever they call it. And he sold his soul for guitar skills. And when he came back, they say when he died, this guy was howling like a dog. And funny enough, in his music, he sang about a hounding dog that was coming for his life. And when he was dying, he was barking like a dog. Now look at how, when it comes to music, okay, let's just wrap it on the music. Let's just wrap it on the music thing. You might wanna think about what kind of music and stuff like that. There's been recently the death of this young kid called Julio Fulio, whatever. He's a hip hop. Uh, Julio Fulio. This is a kid, small kid, arrogant, thought he was invincible and stuff. This kid. And so the funniest thing about this happened like a month ago, not even a month, 2 weeks back, 2 weeks back or something like that. Not this one on the side, Julio Fulio, this one here. This was a kid. This kid got famous for mocking people who were dead, family members of people who were dead and whatnot. He would start trouble in order just to keep up, just to be famous or just to stay relevant and stuff like that. In one of his gang activity stuff, he went, him and his gang, and they shot someone who was celebrating their birthday, and that kid's birthday was on the 23rd. They remember that. Guess what happened recently? He was killed on his birthday, on the 23rd. The irony of it, the exact same thing he was mocking some people about. Yeah, he shot them and he killed them. He made an entire song about it. I killed them on their birthday. They thought they were going to just eat, and he died in the worst way. And he sings this stuff at a graveyard. Graveyard. He sang these things at a graveyard. There was a song that he sang about this guy. He killed this guy's cousin or something like that. And he went and he made a song. Yeah, this is the song right here. Julio Fulio. It was popular about 3 years back. This guy has only been popular for 3 years, and he was mocking this kid who died on the 23rd on his birthday. And guess what? They killed him on his birthday. And so it's things like that, yeah, when you think about the music you listen to, you should consider is that some of these people are performing some funny, strange ritual stuff over this stuff. You know what? I've kept you guys here for too long. I'll talk forever. But yeah, consider that, with type of music that you listen to. So nowadays it's very different. You have to be careful about everything, and we don't like that as individuals, as people. We don't like, you just want to maybe watch one or two things. Maybe I'll watch out against movies, or I'll watch out against these, but you have no idea how the mind of a human being absorbs. This kid was he 21 or something like that? These kids are dying young, like they're dying young. And so the death culture that you saw in during the period of the Marilyn Mansons and whatnot in the rock culture has now translated to popular culture. The music nowadays, like when you'll have this thing here. you'll have this culture right here, this culture here of a teardrop, this teardrop nonsense. You'll see it on people, and you'll ask yourself, what's the teardrop about? The teardrop is actually a self-confession, a gang sign that you've killed someone or you've had someone killed. And then the number of teardrops will then tell you how many people and stuff, you know? And so it became popular with Lil Wayne and Birdman and stuff like that. But you'll see it, Gucci Mane has it, and a lot of people actually do have it. Some of these are not real. This one is real. These kids, they're just doing it. They didn't kill nobody, you know. But they've made it. This one, the game has it and stuff. But these tattoos mean something. They do mean something. They mean that they've had someone killed or they have killed. And so if you're listening to music that has that, you gotta really think twice, man. You know. And so the thing that turned me away from this music, it's the self denial in this music. I remember the song, you know, I was a big Chris Brown fan, very huge Chris Brown fan. I used to do crunk music because Chris Brown, by the time Chris Brown was popular, crunk music was thingy. When Chris Brown sang that song, remember, Fallen Angel comes right after the entire incident with Rihanna. And so it was like they just gave him satanic writers to say, you do this or else. That's why after that, he then came out, he was saying, no, they wanted to use me, what. But dude, you put yourself in that position. The Rihanna thing was supposed to completely scrape Chris Brown off the music industry. And then, boom, he comes out with Fallen Angel. And before you know it, he's back up. The entire thing flew off the thingy. They scraped it off. So a lot of these arts. So I'm actually doing I'm trying to do an episode on some of the things that Hollywood has done. That is actually so Antichrist is ridiculous. So Antichrist, it's ridiculous. Yesterday I found one. I was shocked. Some of the content that I do on this channel, if you see how I come across this content, you would laugh. So I was watching a movie, a thing, and like I told you, I mostly look out for music from these movies, because honestly, that's like music on another level. The music that these guys make when they're doing movie scores, they call them scores. It's like some really deep music stuff. There is this series. My goodness, what is the name of that thing? I forgot it. I researched it a little bit earlier on. I just forgot. Oh no, I wrote it down. Thank God. You can go and check a review of this thing. I want to just tell you the name before we end. I can't sit straight now already. Yeah, Colony. Okay, Colony. I don't know why couldn't I find it? It's called Colony 2016. This thing here. So I'm gonna do a breakdown of this. Apparently, it's a television show from 2016, and in the name of this TV show, so it's a series. I think it's a series-based TV show from 2016 and so forth. The aliens are our masters, and they create these colonies by which they tell people the laws to obey and abide by. And so, and I was like, what? That's crazy, And then there is this show, the second show, but I'm gonna make an entire episode on it so you can see it. There's this show called The Messengers. I sometimes forget it. I wrote it down, but this one I'm doing an episode about it. It's called The Messengers. This is the show right here. You watch this show, They have these people who have superpowers and whatnot. So I saw it initially, and it was advertised almost like it's as if it's Christian or apocalyptic. So I went to watch the first episode. I couldn't even finish the first episode, and they immediately mentioned that the goal was to have these people stop the apocalypse. Yeah, they literally say that. In the first episode, the goal of all, they bring these people together, and what's the goal? Why are we being gathered together, all us with all different powers? They're like, yeah, the goal is so that we can stop the apocalypse. I'm like, what? And so they are putting all this stuff in these medias, in all these stories, with the stories, Lucifer, where they make a Lucifer that is kind of like, so what's the goal with all these things? Is to corrupt so much to a point where you just don't know where it started. You don't have a reference point and stuff like that. And I started to notice something. I used to get so annoyed when we were watching a TV show and then they put a gay couple for no reason. Like they just put a gay couple in there. Okay, fine. Just kind of like looked over it and stuff. It annoyed me. I mean, I used to love this show called FBI. I love police shows, kind of like those type of shows, health shows, medical shows. So I saw the show called FBI. I think it's Most Wanted. The show was fine for a few episodes. Then before you know it, they start focusing it around this couple that was gay and stuff like that. And I'm like, why though? It was so not necessary. The show was fine all along, but they need to just insert it. So okay, fine. I just left that. Last week, I don't know what I watched. I watched something. I can't remember. I remember the thought I had when I saw this thing. I don't remember what I was watching exactly. I watched this thing, and I know I'm rambling. I watched this thing, and the first thing I realized was that they make all the other relationships unstable. It's only this not normal relationship that are stable. I'm like, what is wrong with the shows? They will have the gay couple be the ones that they have a strict relationship. I even thought of Modern Family, the show Modern Family. I did watch that show way back. Modern Family, the sitcom. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Yeah, this is it. Modern Family. And so I didn't watch this show. I haven't watched it in a very long time. I haven't checked. These two here are a gay couple. These two are a gay couple. And these two, Phil and Thingy, they are married. And then this one is the child of this one. Manny is the child of this one, and this is the grandfather of the house. That's the daughter of this one's, and this one is the daughter of this one. I don't know. This one must be new or something like that. This one I think maybe is the child of these two. I don't know. This is from a recent show. I'm guessing, but these two here, this one, they are new. They were not there in the old one. So these are a stable relationship. They have a stable relationship. These two gay, I think they have a stable relationship. This one, the joke is that she is young and whatnot, but she likes this older man. So that's the joke here. There's nothing else. They just make a joke about that constantly and stuff like that. And then here, these ones here, they constantly have fights. Their marriage is up and down. Phil does something that almost makes him look like he's cheating, but he's not. She misinterprets it. He has to come back, apologize, whatnot. They will never have that issue with these two. Never. They will have it amongst these ones, these two here, or these two. So the normal relationships, they will have this type of fights, the normal fight and what, but they will never have that here. Here, it's always, someone didn't acknowledge the other one. He must come and apologize because what? It's always things like that. I started noticing that pattern and I'm like, what's going on here? There's this dynamic that Hollywood is on of making normal relationships look abnormal or unstable But then the not normal ones are the ones which are okay. They're the ones who are advising everybody else, you know. And also, I watched the new Ghostbusters. I haven't watched a lot of movies lately, but when Ghostbusters is an old classic story and stuff like that. So when it came out, I was like, "What? There's a new Ghostbusters." So I checked it, and I noticed another agenda of Hollywood to make the kids determine the stability of the family. I'd never noticed that on thingy, and I was like, on this time, I guess maybe because I've been watching a lot of this stuff for a very long time. Now when I watched it, I was kind of like more alert or something. But when I watched it, it absolutely annoyed me, and I was like, if you watch this new Ghostbusters thing, uh, so I'm probably going to make it. It's probably going to be in that particular episode that I'm going to do about Hollywood's this whole agenda of making stable thingy uh, completely. So this is the pamphlet. This is the pamphlet of this thingy. You know, this is the pamphlet, and you'll see this is the parent, this is the mother. You'll remember the last Ghostbuster, they messed it up. They put every character, main character was a woman. They're trying to replace men or something. They were on that whole women agenda, feminism thing. It just messed up the series. So they went back to this time. They just went to families. They didn't have like main characters as friends. This child is underage, according to the film. Underage, not supposed to be doing any of the stuff. It's seen as work. She's not supposed to be working. This is the parent, this is the big brother. He's able to do and stuff. But this child is the smartest out of everybody. Everybody's a scientist and whatnot, and they understand science and all. But she has the wow idea that makes them survive fighting this last big ghost and stuff like that. And I'm like, what's going on here? But it fits their agenda. Yeah, have young people feel like they have the answers, that they're adults. Do you see that? They're creating you know the very same thing that we had when we were growing up, and you were watching these movies like Home Alone and stuff like that. You felt like you were smarter than your parents. It's just that now it's very heightened. I've seen it in a lot of these kid shows. It's just that I had not noticed it until I saw this particular show. And I was like, why would they do that? Why not just have a situation where, but that's where we are right now. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, with entertainment, be careful. It's a lot. Yeah, the feminist fiasco, it didn't work. It completely destroyed the franchise. They ruined the franchise with that. Uh, it was a mess. Everybody, the lesbian, the what? It's just annoying. It's annoying. Just have normal TV shows, not all this nonsense. But entertainment is also just that. Watch out, pray for it, pray over such things when you are doing them. I never thought about that until just seeing some of the newer shows that they have. They have such an agenda against things. Like I used to love what is that? Supernatural. Unfortunately, I was a kid back then, so I couldn't watch it. But when I was an adult and I had the internet, I went back to look for Supernatural. I had this question. I was born again already. It's like, what was in Supernatural that I used to like? So I went back and I watched it again, and I saw the same thing in Supernatural. They're always hinging on the idea of God, the Bible, Satan, what the main character's child. The main character there's a chance that he is not a child of his father. There's a big chance that he is actually a son of Satan. And I'm like, what is going on here? I don't remember this part of the plot of the movie, but that's the world. That's the kind of stuff that's out there. So yeah, anyways, guys, let's call it quits. I'll see you on later on next week. I'll try and be early so that we can cover some of the subjects Disney and generally push the LGBT agenda. Yeah, they're going full brace on it. They're going full brace on it. By the way, there's a new film that's coming. Two new films. I saw them today actually. Um, by two different pastors. I'll probably cover them on an episode or something. One is by Apostle Emmanuel from Nigeria. Shout out to Nigeria. Nigerian is they're trying to have Christian entertainment stuff. And there's another one by the Winlows. The Winlows are doing another film. I think it's called Holy something. Let me see. Yeah, but with the Julio Fulio, it's an example that with media you wanna watch out. The Winlows. Let me see if I can spot it. Yeah, so they have a new. They announced it very recently. There it is. Holy Scam. So basically, this is actually based on a true event. Not necessarily that the story that they're gonna tell here is a true story, but it's based on a true event. There is actually a pastor. It's a story that's talking about these love scams and stuff like that. And so there was a pastor in Nigeria who has been praying for scammers, like legit. you know, he's been praying for scammers. And so they're doing a news show on that. And then the other show, what is it called again? I think I had a tab open here. Oh geez, will I be able to find it? There's a show called About Us or something like that. I saw it today. Apostle. So yeah, he appeared on the news very recently. He appeared on the news there. Yeah, this is him here. I do watch some of his messages. So he appeared on the news talking about a new movie that they are working on. It's called About Us. Yeah, it does look good. It's a very good warning. I'm probably going to cover it when it does come out, if they do have it available online. So he was talking about it here, and it's a warning for people who are married, not to bond outside or to creating strange bonds outside of their marriage. It looks like a very good movie. I just saw the trailer. So you'll have to, if you want to see the trailer, just go watch this video one-on-one with Apostle Emmanuel Rain. You will see the trailer inside that there. So, but I'm probably going to cover it. According to the trailer, it looks like a very good movie. And it's very simple things, small little things. Before you know it, they have allowed other people into their marriage. It messes them up. Right. I know I didn't read most of them. Last comments, my bad. I think. Yeah. What's his name? That boy, the musician guy. What's his name? I forgot. Sheb. Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he has them. Yes. Oh, here's my other thing that I do not like. When musicians are become so lazy, they just name they just name their songs a verse idea. Like, love your neighbor. So when you are going to search for a verse, it brings up songs and whatnot. Ooh, I used to hate that with Hillsong. Nowadays it doesn't pick them up because it just picks up whatever is recent. They'll name a song something that's search, like it's a verse search. And I was like wondering, is this why there are songs that are so popular? Because it's like a term in a verse. So when you're searching for that term, their song comes up. Ooh, I used to hate that thing. But it was all over. It was very popular back in about 2015, going backwards. They used to do that a lot. Okay, we get this one. Hey bro, I can't believe I'm late. Leadership, even as we are late. That's why we are leaving now. but we'll try and do 7 to thing. I did have a problem. Yo, I forgot. I forgot, guys. Okay, I completely forgot. Okay, give me 10 minutes. Let's do this. All right. I completely forgot about that. And I try to keep the books right here so that I don't forget. Dololo. All right. So this is the video. So let me close these other tabs. Random comment picker. So we'll take the link from that. How do I use it again? I haven't used it in a very long time. YouTube. Okay, YouTube random comment picker. All right, paste the link. All right, we're not gonna select anything here. And all right, what is it supposed to? 15. Okay, 6. Why is it making me do math? Okay, there's a number of comments is 65. Let's see if it will generate. I completely forgot. I think we might have to postpone this for next week. Oh. It is not generating. Okay, start. It picked Tanya, Jason. Wow, I would love to win one. Tanya. Okay, pick Tanya. Okay, I'll come back and screenshot it again and then pick another one and start. Miriam is here. I saw Miriam in the comments. So Miriam, there she is. Miriam, you are one of the winners. Where is Miriam? Okay. Yebo. All right, leadership. So you'll send me a WhatsApp message on that number. Tanya, I didn't see Tanya in the stream. I don't think she's here. Should I pick another person? Should I pick it? Do the pick again. Let's have someone who's here again. So let's pick another one. Tanya, I haven't seen Tanya in the whole stream. My bad, guys. I completely forgot. Completely. Let it pick again. Wisdom Nube. I don't think Wisdom is here. Is Wisdom here? So just send me a message to this WhatsApp number here, and then you'll request you to get a Pick and Pay store number to your closest to your closest pap. My bad. Wisdom is Wisdom here. I don't think Wisdom is here. Okay, behind every movie song and anything trendy is spirit, either God, but in most cases it's evil. We need to be aware. Yeah, like that's for me personally. I go a very long time without listening to most of the modern stuff. Like the stuff that I still listen to are things from way back, old stuff, and stuff like that. Even the gospels, sometimes personally I just don't trust because a lot of these gospel musicians are not even Christian, you know. That's why they just regurgitate music. They just repeat the same old thing, because there is no. You knew she would win leadership. You dreamt it. You should have told us so that we don't have to do it. Yeah. Yeah. So, Miriam, just send me a message. Let me just pick another person because I don't think Wisdom is here. Let me pick another person. All right. Pick another person. I'll do another one this week. All right. Liz, Lila, she doesn't have the code in there. Pick another person. And then this will be the last one. Then if it doesn't, we'll just do start. Leadership. Leadership is not here. I haven't seen Paul on the lives. He's there in the videos, in the daily videos, but I haven't seen him in the lives for a very long time. He doesn't have the code in there. But I guess on Saturdays he's busy, so you'll see him in the videos, but in the lives it's quite difficult to see him there. Let's do another one and then we'll call it off. Hi, Miriam. It picked you twice, leadership. Another one. Ernest 2 was the first comment. Ernest here? And then we can call it off. Let's see if maybe they do confirm if Ernest is here. Leadership. That's not your name there. Did you choose a different, or are you using a different profile? Are you using a different profile? Hey, Miriam is winning twice leadership. Hey, when you were saying you were being too accurate. The dreamers. Maybe you had a dream about something that you were asking for a confirmation if that dream was thinking. So the Miriam was your signal for the validation of that dream. Mm. Okay, I don't think they're here. Uh, Kabele, are you using a different profile or something? I'm gonna close. I can't see it up anymore. Okay, 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 no problem. Yes, Miriam reminded us of the giveaway and then she won. Ernest is not here again. So let's pick another one. All right, let's pick another one. Start. Thunder, they don't have, it doesn't have it in the comment, does not have the code in the comment. Start. Uh, Magdalene. Magdalene. I didn't see Magdalene in the whole live stream. I did not see Magdalene in the whole live stream. Guys, I think the other one we will do next week. I'm tired. I can only imagine for you guys. Yeah, I'll go back to family. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much. And for all the questions, thank you very, 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 very much for all the questions. Because someone, you don't know, someone has that exact question that would be answered from that. And so, yeah, Miriam, do message me on there. And when I go out tomorrow, I'll pass by the pep store and and send that through. All right, guys. I think we can call it quits. I'm gonna check you guys next week. Yeah, potentially next week we'll do one of the we'll continue the stream on the 600 laws. We'll see, or maybe we'll do another Q&A. I do see newer questions and stuff like that, and also new people. So maybe we might continue that and stuff. But anyways, y'all have a good one. Good night.